I'm Christy,
And I'm Kathy.
and this is The Psychic
And the Skeptic. Welcome back to The Psychic and the Skeptic. And on this episode, we are starting part 2 of our case file on Yorktown Memorial Hospital. So if you missed part 1, please go back and listen to that episode and come back to this one to hear more EVPs and stories from our investigation with Afterlife Paranormal Investigations. We are returning to where we left off. The team from API, Christy and I, had returned from dinner. Little did we know we'd already captured some evidence on our audio, but we grabbed our equipment and went back to officially start the investigation. So a while after we had returned, we decided to start our investigation. All the equipment's all set up. We're bringing some equipment with us, and we're starting in the basement. We went to this room that is called the cage room because it has this heavy-duty, frankly medieval-looking cage. Like, it had bars like a prison cell, but it was a complete square, and it was in the middle of this room. And it was said to be where patients were sent that were at risk for harming themselves or others. So it's almost like a solitary confinement type area. Literally looks like a prison cage. But we decided to do a sit down in this room, and we call this a sit down because we're doing several things as investigators. One, we're not up moving around making noises, so we don't contaminate our audio. We sit down and take time to really let the environment just settle.
and we're
We
monitoring.
tune into the energy. Do we feel anything strange? We let our eyes get used to the darkness that we're sitting in. We let our ears get used to the natural sounds. Any street noise, any cars going by, any animals in the location, just to get a general idea of the space.
We're literally monitoring every aspect of this particular area.
Yep, all of our senses: smell, sight, hearing, taste, or even
I'm not licking the floors, I tell you.
I'm not licking the floor either. But all of our senses are open. We're not doing what you might think is a seance. We're not calling on any spirits. We're not inviting anything there. We're simply just feeling the environment. So while we were there, we set up various pieces of monitoring equipment for electromagnetic fields. And of course, our audio recorders are running. And we wanted to sit in this area because leading into this investigation, Tammy, she tends to get dreams or maybe some kind of premonition leading in. And you do too. Sometimes you have spirits that contact you, knowing you're coming and reaching out to you before you even get there. So she had an experience like that as well. She had an intense dream about a long-haired woman in this room. So she wanted to go there right away.
Yeah, they had investigated previously at this location.
So,
maybe.
yeah. And she felt somebody was reaching out to her, wanting her to spend time in this space. So we started there for that reason. We had some EMF light strings that as energy passes by, it might light up. They had brought their motion sensing music box to play. So if something passes near this, it'll play some music. And then we also had the cat light up balls. So those will light up with touch or movement. And all of that was set up in the area. But what we had picked up on was some banging and movement and then a voice. We'll play that for you and see if you can hear what it's saying. Now you hear the banging.
That was loud.
Yeah. And then a whispery voice. It sounds male. Do you think it sounds male?
Yeah.
And it comes in, and here's what we think it says. It sounds like, put it back. And then there's a pause. Put it back.
It's almost like he's getting on to someone for
Right.
whatever they picked up
And
or whatever they moved. I don't know.
so this is while Jill's audio recorder is still in the front stairwell.
Mm-hmm.
So it is in a completely different location than where we are. This
Right.
is not with us in the basement. So what are they talking about? What did we move? Put what back? Is something in it? Is this residual? Is this somebody? I don't know.
I don't think it's
But
residual. I think, again, I think they were getting on to another spirit, possibly, since it's obviously not us, and was saying,
so
hey,
was the banging because something moved
could be.
and then a
Or they
spirit telling them put it back?
Were they trying to mess with some of our equipment or pick
I
something
don't
up?
know.
And
It's
the
hard to
spirit's
know.
like,
These are
hey.
always such a mystery. I
Mm-hmm.
heard the put it back the first time. The second part of it I thought was some movement, but the more I listen to it, I can hear where you all think it repeats itself and saying, just spread out a little bit more, put it back.
Yeah, and I've listened to this one before with earbuds in, and it does. If you listen to it closely,
Yeah.
that's what it sounds to me like it's saying.
I'm going to
Anyway.
isolate that section where the voice is and play that one more time for you. See if you hear what we're hearing. So some of the local legend says that there was a murder-suicide in the basement. Some fight that happened, I think, between coworkers of the hospital, or maybe it was part of the drug rehab center.
Mm-hmm.
And
We're
there's
cra-
supposedly blood splatters on the wall from this murder-suicide and on the ceiling. And we could see these marks. We saw the area that this legend is referring to. I happen to have a blood testing kit, like a forensics kit that I bring along on investigations. So these marks on the wall in the basement were previously reported to have tested positive for human blood. So I wanted to take my kit along and see for ourselves. And I have a phenolphthalein presumptive blood testing kit. So it uses this chemical to determine if the sample is positive for blood. Now, it doesn't differentiate between human and animal blood. So if it does come back positive, we just know that it's blood, but we don't know if it's human or animal. So I did some swabbing of various areas of this wall because there's all kinds of splatter. Some of it could be just mud or dirt that got kicked up from the basement if there was any flooding there. And other spots looked maybe like a dark brown, could have been old dried blood. So we sampled as much as we could of all the varying types of splatters we saw on the wall. And all of it came back negative for both human or animal blood. So that was interesting. So I wonder where that story came from, who had tested it. Did they do a sample in an area that was separate from what we tested? But again, we were really thorough. We probably had 8 to 10 swabs used that night to try to get something from that wall, but we could not validate that claim.
So while we're down here in the basement and we're doing our sit down, we had also set up a grid in the hallway that leads into the basement.
So
Now,
this is a laser grid with dots,
yes,
and it helps prevent our eyes from playing tricks on us while we're sitting in the dark looking down a long hallway. It can help us see shadows.
right, because if a shadow happens to cross in front of that beam, then you will see some of those dots darkened out. So Brooke and Tammy were sitting closest to this doorway, and both of them claimed to see a 4-foot shadow there in the hallway. And then around 1:37 a.m., we had one of our little light up cat balls sitting in this doorway. And then suddenly it just activated. Then 2 minutes later, it activated again. Then we heard this really loud thump from the corner of the room. And suddenly our laser grid just moved on its own. And we see the grid pattern changes and we're like, whoa, that was about 1:44 a.m. And of course, we went over there, tried to figure out what caused it. We tried to recreate the movement.
We thought
And
maybe it just started gradually just falling from where it was set, and it was set there pretty good. It wasn't.
yeah, and it sat there for a long time.
What's
With
interesting is you have more than one piece of equipment. If it was the same equipment, going off from time to time, then I would think it would be some kind of equipment malfunction, the battery draining, something like that. But the shadow seen through the grid, the cat ball, and the grid moving,
Mm-hmm.
it looks like a flashlight for those of you who aren't familiar with that kind of equipment. But it was just setting on a table.
Right. So that was pretty interesting, but that was the majority of what occurred to us in the basement. So we definitely didn't have a shadow that was trying to ram us or hurt us
Yeah,
or
nothing to the extent of the.
the claims that are online.
Yeah.
And even the chapel, like we didn't really have anything happen in the chapel either. And that's another one of the areas that claims to be a more active part of the building. Now, I will say though, when we're sitting in the chapel, we were looking towards the nurses' station. Some of us noticed some shadow movement. So we were like, oh, hey, okay, let's go ahead and leave the chapel. Let's go set up and continue at the nurses' station. So that's what we did. We set up some EMF meters and a music box and light up balls, everything we normally would use for a sit down.
Okay, so this isn't a really large area. It's a small nurses' station with 2 corridors off to the sides and one around the corner. We conducted what's called an audio baiting session, so we wanted to play some songs and read off some scripture from the Bible because this is a Catholic hospital. And we had some activity on the EMF tripwire, that just some lights that can light up, that we had that running down the hallway. Plus we had our usual laser grid and other sensors that would light up with movement like the cat balls. And during the audio baiting session, or we had just finished up one of the audio clips and we heard some multiple thuds by all team members. So this was captured on our audio recorder. I can go ahead and play that for you right now.
Yeah.
Did you like that music?
Well,
Holy gosh,
Rick?
what was that?
it sounded like it was behind the nurse's station.
It was everywhere. Yeah.
So you can hear that banging. It comes in right as Tammy was asking if the spirits that might be present like that music. Right. And we were trying to play things, and we usually do this with our baiting to help them react like a peace offering. Here's something that we think you might enjoy. Do you want to have conversation with us? And so this banging noise was actually coming from inside the nurse's station. So we were sitting in the hallway just outside the nurse's station. You could tell what direction the sound was coming from. So you hear all of us react to it. What was that? And all that kind of emotion that we have. And there were bangs at several different times, and nothing was falling. Nothing was in disrepair in this area. So it really didn't make sense and makes us think more this could have been paranormal at the time.
Right.
And I'm super interested in this because, as some of you may know, I am a nurse by profession. And anytime we want to investigate a hospital, I'm all in. Just for the nostalgia of the old equipment that's still there, the call light system. So it's really cool that it was there. But yes, you and Tammy were picking up on, and possibly Brooke too. Brooke was getting some sense of the spirit that was there.
Mm-hmm.
And we have an EVP from this area at this time after a certain question was asked. And let's see if you can tell what that response was.
Is the nurse still here at the nurse's station?
So, like most EVPs, this one is very faint as well. You hear Christy asking the question, and it sounds to us like a male responding, no. I'm going to isolate that section and see if you can hear it.
Yeah, listen real closely. How about we go ahead and go into some psychic investigator claims? So these would be like the spirits that I picked up on from that sensitive viewpoint. So first off, I'd come across, like one of my first encounters was with a spirit that I call the Angry Mel. So now I was in Sister Mary Monica's old admin room. And in this room, a young male I gauged him probably in his mid-20s. He showed me his face up close and personal, as if he was yelling and angry. It's like I saw his face, and then that face just like,
Lunged?
yeah, I guess the face just lunged toward me and got really close.
That sounds a little
Like,
bit like some of those claims, like charging you, coming right up on you.
I would say
This was
probably,
psychically, though, right?
yes, that's correct. I'd say probably an inch or two away from my face, and then he disappeared. Now, with him, he felt to me like he had some sort of mental health disorder. And I felt that he had this very heavy depressive type energy. And I did feel that he had some sort of traumatic childhood, which did lead to the adult problems that he had experienced.
And that goes with the rehab facility, maybe from
Possibly.
the 80s and early 90s.
Yeah, I did think about that. And I re encountered him again upstairs. And then he showed me, it was almost like I was looking through his eyes. And he showed me this view looking out one of the windows. And I'm going to give a trigger warning. This will deal with suicide. So if that's too upsetting to you, you might want to fast forward for the next 10 or so seconds. But he showed me himself looking outside this window, and he was wanting to jump to his death. So I know they've got these internet claims of TJ, supposedly the restless patient. I didn't get a name on this guy, and I didn't see him near the operating rooms or emergency areas. But it's interesting. Could it be TJ? I don't know. I don't know if any of that matches or not, but I do feel like he is one of the patients that were there. Now, as you said, Kathy, it could be during the times that it was a rehab center. Now, the next I saw was this young woman and her lost baby. Now, before leaving my home to come to this investigation, I did pick up on this woman who had a baby, but she passed away during the childbirth. Now, I wasn't sure if her baby had passed away too, or if it was just her, but yet she didn't know where her baby was. When I got to the hospital, I encountered her again, but she didn't really want to talk a whole lot to me. And she just was in a very depressive state, just wanted to be left alone. So at that point, I didn't push to communicate with her any further. I did offer to help her cross over, but she refused. Okay, then I came across another spirit. It's called the teenage mother. And of course, going back, this angry male, this young woman who had lost her baby, and this teenage mother, I do believe they were all patients at this hospital at some point. Now, with this teenage mother, I picked up that she was 16 years old, and her parents wanted her to train to be a nun. And her parents were devout Catholics. She did want to make her parents proud of her, so she did enter the training, but then later decided this isn't for me. I don't want to follow along that path. Now, this time period, I felt she existed maybe in the 1950s, and she had met a boy, and she had become pregnant. Now, due to this accidental pregnancy, she carried a lot of guilt and shame with her, and her parents decided to send her away during her pregnancy, so that way she wouldn't be noticed by those that were close to them, who lived around them. Because back then, it was very shameful if you got pregnant in the 1950s. There was a lot of claims of people taking their teenage pregnant daughters to different facilities.
Yeah, sometimes it was, oh no, I was going to say to the convent too. I think
Yes.
some had
Huh?
places to go for unwed mothers.
And Catholic nuns have been known to foster some of these young women.
Mm-hmm.
And then after they would have the baby would be adopted, and they would come back, live their life like normal. Oh, she was on a vacation to go
Yeah.
see Aunt Betty or whatever. But, and like her, she had this baby. It was a baby boy. And then her parents made her give him up for adoption. And who knows? I think what I had picked up on is she had the baby there. And I really feel like she was in search of her child.
Just never had that closure in life.
Correct. Absolutely
And that
correct.
sounds like that could be a common story, especially in a facility like this and at that time, and one that had many births there. The skeptic might say that you're just pulling a common story that is relatable and could likely be the truth, but I know you well enough to trust that
Mm-hmm.
you wouldn't share anything just for the sake of getting any kind of clout or
Yeah, absolutely
you
not.
know,
And see, here's the thing, though. Before I investigated this hospital, I didn't know babies were born there.
yeah,
As far as it had a baby ward, a maternity ward.
right.
For as small of a hospital as this was, 20 beds.
Yeah.
You
The
know?
odds you're gonna have a
Right.
spirit like that, yeah.
And you're right. If I don't get it,
You're
I
not
don't
gonna
say it.
say it. You're not
You
looking
know?
for fame or
No,
yeah.
not at all. So then we're going to move on to the next spirit, Dr. Leon. Now, I didn't know it was Dr. Leon at the time, but while I
And
did my
Leon was
walkthrough,
his first name, but this is Dr.
Nowowski. Yes.
Nowalski. Yeah.
I just called him Dr. Leon because
Yeah.
when I talked to him, that's what it was. So I picked up on this strong male doctor who was still grieving over the loss of a very close family member. And this felt like a wife or a child. And I felt his physical death had occurred due to a bad heart up in his later years, so heart failure. And I also got that he was connected with this hospital and that he had worked there as a primary doctor. Now, even while he was physically alive, he still had a strong interest in life after death. He was curious about how a body could be resuscitated and how the soul could live on after the physical body dies. So during our sit down, he also, because he was telling me, hey, I don't believe that life just stops when the physical body does. And he was telling me that he had done research on it. This was like a hobby of his
Oh,
on the side.
which also fits with all the deaths that were at this hospital.
Yeah,
It goes along with that legend.
of course. Now, he also told me that he shared some personal things with me. And this is again before I knew any of the claims. But he told me that he had faced numerous false accusations during his career there as a doctor.
And I remember when you mentioned that because I knew you didn't know that
Mm-hmm.
there was a doctor here accused of malpractice.
Right.
And that kind of got me on alert. And this is the other reason why I do preliminary history and background. So when you pick up on something that connects, one, I get super excited and surprised as a skeptic.
Mm-hmm.
And
Sure.
two, it helps us to continue on with the investigation just with more information.
Mm-hmm. You can get details that maybe you
Right.
didn't have.
You fill in the blank, but I have the background for
Yeah.
you to validate what you're picking up on.
And I remember Becky and you have often said, oh, we want to tell her, but hang on, we can't. We got to wait.
You gotta wait. Gotta
Even-
wait.
Yeah, even as I'm giving some of these details, and Becky's really good at taking notes and she's writing it down and stuff. So,
Sometimes it's no secret. And Becky wasn't with us on this one, but so it's just me sitting here. And sometimes my facial expressions are like, yeah. So already you're getting feedback that you're on the right track, but I'm not giving you any details.
exactly. So, one of these accusations that he shared with me, he said it still haunted him, but it was the accusation that he had intentionally cut the throat of one of his female patients. Now, he showed me himself in the operating room and he showed me his hands and they trembled slightly. So it's like they had a little shake to them. But he said he never would have done anything to harm this female patient. And he described to me during this procedure, he had accidentally cut, I don't know if it was an artery or deeper, but he told me he became very scared when he wasn't able to stop the bleeding of this patient. And she died. But he had gotten accused of doing this on purpose. And I never would do that, ever. I never cause physical harm to any of my patients. So during our sit down, he did tell me that he was tired of being there, that he wanted to be reunited with his family and, quote, go home. So before we left the hospital, we did help him, along with some others, to cross over. Because I believe that if you come across spirits that are asking you for help, and we have had this
Yeah.
numerous times, then you should try to help them. Don't make that your overall mission of the goal, but if they ask, open up and let them go. There's no need for them to be stuck here earthbound and in a state of just feeling those earthbound emotions and being tied to everything that's here. Release them and let them go. So now, while helping Leon and the others to cross over, the 5 of us that were there suddenly felt like this cold breeze that just blew through our circle. And what was unique about this is because the whole time that we had been in the hospital, we had not felt any air circulation from anywhere, because most of the hospital's windows and doors were boarded up, and we had sat in that middle area by the nurse's station for a long time. But suddenly, you just felt this cold breeze. Do you remember that, Kathy?
Yeah, and I am going to be the skeptic here on this one because there was one area, and I think it was the old ambulance bay, that wasn't completely boarded up. There was still some air coming in from outside, and we might have just not felt breezes in other parts of the hospital because that was well shut down. But this area, it was around the corner from that ambulance bay, and I wonder if maybe just the cold front was starting to come through, and we just didn't have any wind earlier in that evening.
I think you're just reaching for conclusions out
Well,
of
I
your
mean,
butt.
everything can go either way on all that stuff. We have to rule it out. We weren't able, I will say, we weren't able to rule that out at that time. And it was a little ways away, and it would be quite a stretch if it
Mhm.
did come from that area, because it's not like it was 50 feet away or less. It was down the hallway quite a bit. It's interesting when you do get that, and the nurse's station is very central to this building. It's not like it's on an outer edge. It
Uh-uh.
had to be
It's
short
inside.
distance to each of the wings, so it is usually
Mhm.
found towards the center of a hospital ward.
Right.
Who knows? That's
Well,
a head scratcher.
I think that we crossed them over, and Kathy can believe what she wants, but I think Tammy and Brooke would probably back me up.
All right.
Maybe even Jill. Hi, Jill.
Sure.
So, anyway, Jill, what's your opinion on this? You can come in on our Facebook page even and say your opinion, whether you think that we crossed them over or not.
I'm just trying to look at all the possibilities. I'm not saying it's not possible. That's what happened. Rarely are we crossing people over, and all we do is just say a nice little prayer for them and help them to recognize that they have free will to move themselves along. And sometimes it's just encouragement, and that's how we help people to cross over. But
That's from a person that is not psychically inclined. I will say no
Sure.
offense, Kathy, but there's a little more to it than that.
that's how the non-psychically inclined would help somebody cross over.
Right.
It's really more like saying a prayer for them.
Oh, of course. And we do that, but a lot of it too is some visualization, and we won't get into that. But yeah, even the environment felt different
Sure.
after we did
Yeah,
it.
it's the
you
cold
know?
front. Just kidding.
Whatever. All right, let's move
Hey,
on, folks.
I have to give the skeptic perspective here. We are the psychic and the skeptic.
Blah. Okay, so I have one more to talk about. This is who I call the lady in blue. Now, in the beginning, when we were conducting our walkthrough, and I was in the kitchen area, I saw a medium to heavy set type woman wearing a light blue V-neck scrubs. They were short sleeve scrubs, and she had the matching blue pants with them. Now, she had dark hair. She looked to be maybe in her late 30s or early 40s, and her hair was dark and put up in a bun. Now, I encountered her shortly after I entered the kitchen area, and it's like I was walking and we were passing each other. And she smiled at me and said hello, and she told me that she had lost her son and was very sad about his death. And before I could even say anything back, she was gone. She just really quickly disappeared, and I never saw her again for that entire rest of the evening. And I don't know whether she had once worked at the hospital, like as a cook or a dishwasher or something, I don't know, or if she was just a transient spirit. I really don't know.
Yeah, and in scrubs, she could have been a civilian nurse in the sense that she wasn't one of the nuns, just by the uniform she was wearing. And they probably went to the kitchen for meal times and to get a dinner tray on her break. She
Like
could
a
have been-
nurse volunteer?
No, a nurse who worked there.
Okay.
or a nurse's aide, any of the above.
So those were the spirits that I encountered. And again, guys, we do have this investigation posted on our website, www.okpri.com. If you would like to go on there and check it out, feel free. You can listen to all the EVPs, the sound clips, and I even put a video together.
Yes.
Yeah, of
I
us
think-
even in the basement, seeing the cat balls go off. So that's on our website as well if you'd like to check that out. We also have a YouTube channel for our OKPRI page, and you're welcome to go on there. We have tons of clips on there from the past.
And if you like these kind of episodes, write us in at psychicandskeptic@gmail.com and let us know what
What do you want to hear?
let us know what other topics you may be interested in and episodes that you enjoy. And we will do our best to give you more of what you like.
Absolutely.
If you'd like to follow our paranormal investigation group, you can go to our website at www.okpri.com or follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/okparanormal. So you can find us wherever you enjoy your podcasts, and thank you for listening.
Because the paranormal is the normal.
Not yet understood.